What is a dying niche skill that younger generations are not interested in learning? Sewing, particularly in men. My mother always made sure that I knew how to sew so that in the future, I could fix up my own clothes when they wear down. Edit, where my top comment is now about my sewing clothes. Thank you for all the support. I'm glad sewing isn't as much a dying art as I originally thought. I don't know if they're niche skills necessarily, but computer literacy and programming skills seem to hit a peak with the generation that grew up with computers in the 90s and have been declining since. Reading a physical map and navigating without GPS if the phone died or you were in a dead zone, you had to actually understand road signs, landmarks, fold a giant paper map without rage quitting, and figure out where the hell you were using a compass or just intuition. Reading and comprehension. Based on what I've seen online, they think you're a try-hard or an AI if you write in full sentences, use punctuation, or heavens forbid use an em dash. Changing a tire. Someone please teach me. Reading an analog clock. I swear a lot of people young and old who doesn't know how to read an analog clock. Unionizing. We grabbed so much power back from the mega-rich in the beginning of the last century, and we've spent the beginning of this century just giving that power back. But why no, the change can be you. Reading books or writing letters. I have letters from my grandmother that I cherish. They are in beautiful cursive writing, well thought of and expressive. Memorizing phone numbers. Music, classical training that is. Things like piano lessons. As a kid, even 20 years ago, there were several teachers and a lot of kids taking piano lessons in my small hometown of 8,000. Now, there are no teachers and thus no students. It feels like younger people aren't learning to just build shit for the hell of it. When I was a kid, a hammer was a toy. Now parents probably aren't letting their kids go build a fort on their own in the corner of the yard. Granted, my dad's an electrician. I got experience with my uncle who was a glassworker. I worked with my mom's boyfriend doing construction, so I learned a lot of these skills. But it seems like kids don't know how to swing a hammer or cut some wood. Tell me if I'm wrong. When I had carpet installed at my parents' house, the installer was talking about how he was the only one left for an hour in any direction. Every time he would bring in a new guy to train, they would last a few weeks, then quit because how hard it was. He said that he wanted to retire, but he doesn't know who would install carpeting in his absence. There was a documentary about the House of Chanel. Their braided trim accents on the iconic jacket was done by a rural French woman, Mme Pouzier. She and her brother Jory rigged a loom they built by hand and would unweave the fiber strands of the fabric to get the color ratio correct. It was so meticulous, and she attempted to teach younger people to do the task, but they didn't have the skill or patience. Karl Lagerfeld sang her praises because the braid matched perfectly. Probably sewing or mending clothes. My grandma tried to teach me, and it's actually so satisfying to be able to fix a button or a small rip yourself instead of just throwing stuff away, lol. Based on what I see of drivers on the road, the lost art of signal brake turn has vanished. Use the signal to alert the other drivers of your intentions first, then brake. People just brake and turn. Architectural craftsmanship. Not sure we could even build a Queen Anne house today if we tried. Unfortunately, a lot of stage acting. Many plays are filled with old people in the seats because the younger generations grew up in a time with easily accessible movies and shows, where they don't have to go out of their way to travel and watch a stage play. I admit I've never owned a home, but doing your own repairs around the house seems to be a lost art. Plus this one, before cars began not having a spare tire in the back, everyone needed to know how to change a flat tire. Well, except when your sister called from the mall asking you to come and change a tire for her. Now everyone calls whatever road service they belong to. My 5-year-old full-sized car doesn't have a spare. I've had to call 3 times, but only once for a flat tire. The other times were for a jump start. My car eats batteries for breakfast. Driving a manual transmission. Tearing phone books in half. Mostly because it's harder and harder to find phone books at all, much less phone books thick enough to seem impressive. I learned how to do it when the local Yellow Pages was 2-inch thick. The last one I saw was the same thickness as a National Geographic. Way less impressive to rip in half. I'm pretty sure they've even stopped publishing them. I'd say reading a physical book is turning into a skill because we have pushed the younger generations into a digital dystopia of endless scrolling. Hand drafting of technical drawings in many fields. What a miganardo with my 3x5 oak drafting table drawers. Also cursive writing, though not really niche. Map reading. I wouldn't even say is a niche skill, but still an essential one. People lost without phones and GPS. Young archaeology graduates unable to read a map when reading and writing maps is literally part of the job description. Drinking, and then working while hungover the next morning. Watch repair. Not because it's useless, but because everything is designed to be replaced, not fixed. Basically planned obsolescence 1. Skills die when the system stops needing them. Manual map reading. If GPS satellites ever went down, half the population would be wandering in circles. How to fix grandfather clocks or clocks in general. Watch Smiths 2. Memory. I still remember the landline number to my parents' first house in the 90s. I work with people who have their work login passwords written down on their personal phones because it's too difficult to remember. Shoemaking, sewing, canning, fish traps, and stuff like this. Wood and casement window repair people. Almost impossible to find where I am, so people are having to get new windows because no one is able to repair older historic ones. Balancing a checkbook. Basic troubleshooting. The younger generations just give up instantly when something fails. They might Google for a solution, or ask ChatGPT. But if they don't get an answer solution from the first try. Coding. Holy fucking shit. Coding. Designing analog circuits. Home economics. Not niche for boomers, but niche for lots of millennials on. I'm talking how to use a dishwasher properly. Pre-wash cycle is most important. Run the hot water at the sink. How to do laundry properly. Washing machine loading, especially impeller washers. Amount of liquid or powder to use in he machines. Dryer versus hanging dry, pros and cons. Ironing, proper dusting. How to shop with for groceries, a list and a budget. Understanding unit prices. Seasonal foods. Weights and measures. How to make a bed. How to clear a toilet clog. You are aiming to break up the clog and get it back in the bowl. Sewing and mending clothing. Basic woodworking for easy home projects and repairs. And so on and so forth. Edits for clarity. I would say. Piano organ tuner. Stone masonry. Blacksmith.